Hey y'all, Hypershatic46 here, coming at you with another episode of the What If. Real quick, before we start, I know it has been a long while, and some of you might be thinking, yo, Shattuck, what the fuck, man? It does not take, about a month and a half, 2 months-ish to write a whole damn script and get it recorded. And you know what? You'd be right. You'd be absolutely right. A lot of things have happened. I moved, for starters, and yeah, that's just kind of kept up most of my time getting ready for the move. But now that I'm fully moved, most things are where they need to be. I am ready to finally record this, and I need to look real quick back at my script to see when was the last time I touched this thing. The last time I touched it, which was when I had finished it. I mean, technically speaking, it shouldn't have been until like about a couple weeks ago, but I added some things. But when I first initially finished it, it had been like a whole month ago. So yeah, sorry that I'm taking too long again. I really don't want to make that a habit, but I don't think I have anything upcoming. I don't think I do. So everything should be fine. Should be. Not everything goes as planned, but hopefully everything goes as planned. But without further ado, let's just get right back into the what if. I believe last time we had just finished the adventure saga, ending off with Chaos, and Raditz didn't kill him. I know a lot of you are wondering if this is us going into Daima, and initially I had stated yes, I was going to do things in chronological order. So obviously before we go into Battle of Gods, spoiler alert for those of you who hasn't watched Daima yet, go watch it. Daima happens before Battle of Gods, but I had already had Battle of Gods stuff written off the top of my head, and at the time, I hadn't finished Daima, so I had started writing stuff for this part of the script, and in my head, I was like, okay, look, it does not make sense to stop writing this, start writing Daima, and then come back. I'll just write Daima after, and then kind of like, basically, I'm doing it in release order at this point. Daima's going to be the last thing, at least DBZ-wise, that I'm going to do on the timeline. But do know, when I do write Daima, it will happen before Battle of Gods, so don't worry about shit being out of order. Trust me, that's going to be the biggest bone of contention. But enough of me yapping. Let's just get right back into it. We now go into the Battle of Gods arc. It's Bulma's birthday, and everyone's here, even some of the Metalix, the Kais, and Gun. We even see some new faces. Goten and Manic bring their friend Cream to the party with them, along with her mother Vanilla. Teos has brought a lady friend of his own that he's been spending time with named Zoe, and ever since Chaos had been purified, the Chowlits seemingly returned from almost nowhere. As for the happenings after Chaos, not much changed except Knuckles started training with the Supreme Kai to become a Kai himself. Since Chaos and Tikal are here to stay, they've taken up the mantle of guarding the Master Emerald. As usual, Beerus wakes up and learns about the Super Saiyan God, and that both Boo and Frieza have been defeated. Another thing is that Whis tells Beerus that while he was asleep, there was some weird anomaly that seemed to change the universe. So far, it can't be fixed, but at the same time, it doesn't seem to have done any damage. When Beerus questions Whis, he's told about Chaos, Nazo, the Mobians, everything. This gets Beerus thinking, maybe this is all connected to the Super Saiyan God. Whis considers that a stretch, but it's worth a shot. He then tells Beerus that most of the remaining Saiyans are on a planet called Earth. With that, they make their way to Earth. While everyone is partying, some of them decide to settle scores they promised years ago. At first, some of them were against the idea, but given everything that's happened so far, and for once that they can have a friendly brawl without their lives or worlds being at stake, they decide that there's no harm in some friendly matches. Bulma says that she had planned on playing bingo and having the winner obtain all 7 Dragon Balls, but if everyone here is in agreement, then she could change some things around. A whole tournament board is set up, and due to everyone who signs up, certain people will have to take a bye until the next round. Numbers are put into a box, and everyone takes one. Once the brackets are made, everyone gets ready. The rules of victory are simple. You win if your opponent taps out, or if they were sent flying into the water. The first fight of round 1 consists of Vegeta going up against Black Narcissus. Both fighters leapt off of their party boat and flew a little ways away so they were good enough distance. The two got in their fighting stances and flew at each other, both laughing as they threw their blows. Black Narcissus leading with a right hook to Vegeta's jaw, then following it up with a left uppercut, then flipping with a downward kick to the top of his head to send him into the ocean below. The prince stabilized himself, then flew back up toward the Metalix and delivered a knee to his head, then grabbed him and delivered a headbutt before unleashing his fist in a barrage of punches to his chest, his energy climbing with each blow until he had became a Super Saiyan. Black Narcissus let out a cackle as he grabbed Vegeta's fist and spun, flung him away before his energy started rising. Everyone watched on as Narcissus' head had started to shine before it had reached a luster shimmer. He explained that after he had left Earth, he had only one goal in mind, defeating the prince. So he trained and fine-tuned his body until the very alloy on his body began to radiate the same glow and energy that he had pushed to achieve. In other words, the power he's showing has a greater output than his mover mode without him having to grow and sacrifice speed for power. Vegeta smirked and wiped the blood from his mouth and stated that he hoped that the Metalix didn't stagnate. This means that he doesn't have to hold back anymore. With that, he charged his energy and let out a yell. Everyone felt his power skyrocketing as his hair started to grow longer and his eyebrows vanished. This shocked everyone except Shadow, Silver, Trunks, and Bulma. In its full glory, Vegeta showed off Super Saiyan 3. As they clashed, each strike outputted enough energy to almost rock the boat. The two combatants flew toward each other and locked hands, trying to force the other into the water. Vegeta had an idea. He brought his leg up and kicked Black Narcissus from his chin upward, then appeared behind him and kicked him in the back, then shot a big bang attack to send him closer to the drink. Black Narcissus was wise to what was going on and shot an energy beam, causing the large cloud of dust to erupt from the explosion. Before the smoke could clear, Narcissus came through the smoke and drove his fist into Vegeta's stomach, causing the prince to revert back to base form from the pain, but he transformed back into Super Saiyan 3 with Narcissus' fist still in his gut, and proceeded to land punch after punch to Narcissus' face, then brought both of his hands together and slammed them down over the Metalix's head. When Black Narcissus went flying toward the water, Vegeta charged a final flash and fired it. Narcissus caught the beam and tried to force it back, but Vegeta wasn't letting up. He yelled and bulked his muscles, causing the beam to grow in size and power, forcing Narcissus into the water with a loud "No!" coming from him. Black Narcissus came out of the water, fists shaking in anger as he saw Vegeta looking at him. At first he wanted to say something, but after seeing the look on the prince's face, he didn't say anything, he just shook his head. Once the match concluded, Shadow and Pale Bailey flew out toward the open water and got ready. The match commenced and Shadow wasted no time in transforming into his super form. Pale Bailey laughed at Shadow and commented that if that's all he has to show, then this will be an easy victory. Shadow raised an eyebrow as Pale Bailey charged his energy too as he goes into his own luster form. He then splits himself into 4 copies again, each of them only slightly weaker than the original. Shadow got ready as he started to fend off each of the copies, only to slowly get overwhelmed. While fighting off 2, he was punched across the face by another, then hit with an elbow uppercut by a other. Before he could stabilize himself, Shadow was caught by one of the other Pale Bailies and beaten across his face. He was then thrown toward the ocean, but kicked up by a copy and launched toward another who came down on his spine with an elbow. What shocked Pale Bailey was that Shadow was laughing, borderline cackling, as he unleashed a surge of energy to push them away. Everyone spectating saw energy crackling off of Shadow as his coils started to slowly float, then flare up as his color started to change to white. Gohan and Knuckles couldn't believe what they were seeing. Without the use of the Super Emerald, Shadow was achieving the Hyper Form. Each of the Baileys tried to combat Shadow, but he was faster than they could keep up with. Before long, Shadow was using his speed with Chaos Control and split himself into 4 to take on each copy of Pale Bailey. Once each of the copies were defeated, Shadow and Pale Bailey reverted back to a singular fighter each. Shadow cracked his neck, then told Bailey to get ready, because he's about to go all out. He told him that what he's about to do was made to counter Sonic's speed and time break. He took his inhibitor rings off and let out a yell that disappeared. Pale Bailey looked around confused, but was then kicked across the face, then uppercut, then spiked toward the water. Just before he touched the surface, Pale Bailey was caught by Shadow and told to keep up training and not to underestimate the ultimate life form. Shadow then dropped him in the water. He flew back to the party boat with Pale Bayleaf soon emerging from the water, not saying a word. Shadow smirked and looked to Sonic, who was sweating bullets. The next match was called as 18 smirked at Krillin and winked at him before flying off. Krillin waved at her before seeing Omega fly right behind 18, then getting into position. The match was initiated, and Omega showed no mercy, launching a barrage of bullets and missiles at 18, who effortlessly dodged and weaved out the way, getting closer and closer to Omega with each movement. She then vanished and appeared behind him, then delivered a swift kick to his shoulder, then followed with a roundhouse to the same shoulder. Omega, seizing the opportunity, grabbed 18 by her leg, then swung her around in front of him and punched her square in the face, sending her flying. On the sideline, Krillin kept quiet with other Shadow telling him that it's fine if he wanted to root for 18 instead of Omega. Both fighters flew back in, 18 visibly pissed and determined to get those Dragon Balls. Omega threw a fist at 18 only for her to catch it. He then threw another swing only for her to catch it again. Using as much momentum as she could generate, 18 began to spin herself while still holding on to Omega. Then, with all her strength, she threw him down toward the water and flew after him. Every time Omega tried to stabilize himself, 18 hit him with a ki blast to throw him off balance. Then the process would repeat until he was barely at the water's surface. Seizing the opportunity, 18 flew faster and grabbed Omega, both of them going into the deep. Moments later, she slowly came out of the water, complaining about how her clothes were all wet now. Omega slowly rose out the water and landed back on the party boat, saying that he's glad it comes built with internal cleaning systems. Before the next match could be announced, Tien and Krillin were already flying off the boat and got in position. Once ready, they charged their energy and looked at each other. Krillin still needs to settle his score, since as of right now, Tien has a victory over him. Tien cupped his hands together and formed a triangle with them, and ready to Neo Tri-Beam. Krillin got ready. He had a trick that Agent Shadow taught him, and now he's going to put it to good use. Taking aim, Tien watched Krillin fly high into the air before he saw Krillin unleash a barrage of ki blasts around him. The thing that was throwing him off was that Krillin was missing him. The energy balls formed into a large veil around him. Krillin was missing him on purpose, but why? Krillin, seeing that he caught Tien confused, let out a solar flare and lowered his energy. Tien was blinded and started to try to sense Krillin, but he couldn't. Everywhere he tried to sense, all he could feel were the balls of energy until he felt one moving, but it was kicked in the neck and sent flying down before he managed to stabilize himself. At first he was relieved. He now knew it was Krillin moving around. Tien began fending off the moving energy until he felt another one hit him from the back. Suddenly, all the other energies he felt started to move around, and now he lost track of Krillin. He was hit from the side, felt himself elbowed in the face, then blasted in his leg. Just as his sight was about to come back, Tien felt his face grabbed and thrown downward. Once he stopped himself from touching the water, Krillin ready to Kamehameha and shot it. Tien, countering with his own Kamehameha, tried to push it back. Krillin yelled, and his beam started to push back more and more against his opponent. Tien's eyes widening in shock. He knew Krillin kept up his training, but who knew he was this powerful? Their beams exploded in a spectacular light show. Both fighters flew back in and began throwing multiple punches and kicks. Krillin still had one more trick up his sleeve. He charged his energy, then went in almost like he was going to gut check Tien, then yelled Chaos Control. From everyone else's perspective, Tien dropped out of the sky. Just as he was about to hit the water, Krillin caught him by his arm and let him gently touch the surface before flying him back to the party boat. Everyone was astonished. They didn't know Krillin could use Chaos Control since he never showed it off. Krillin chuckled and said he does owe it to Sonic and Agent Shadow. Sonic in the beginning taught him how to use the energy, but Shadow helped him further hone it. Metalix looked over at Dark Oak and nodded his head. It was go time. As they made their way off the boat, Dark Oak commented on how Metalix looked. Metalix filled him in on the happenings in the recent years and how he was in dire need of repairs after Nazo, but now he's better than ever before. Dark Oak responded that if that was the case, then there's no reason for them to hold back or start slow. They should just go at full power. Once they were in position, Metalix transformed into a super form and Dark Oak started to unleash his energy. Like with Pale Bayleaf and Black Narcissus, Dark Oak began to shine. His metallic body was now chromed over, electricity crackling and popping off his frame. He stares Metalix down and told him to be warned. What he is witnessing is his titanium form, or Titan form for short. Black Narcissus let out a chuckle. When asked what's so funny, he told everyone that Metalix doesn't stand a chance. In Dark Oak's Titan form, he could take on all 4 of his generals in their luster forms. He had achieved this form while they were going around the galaxy, liberating the planets of Frieza Force occupancy. Dark Oak pulled out his sword and raced for Metalix, who started throwing Ki blasts to slow down the Metalix, but to no avail, as Dark Oak effortlessly deflected and guarded against them. Metalix dodged any sword swings that came his way, and threw a punch at Dark Oak's chest, only for his fist to bounce off him, leaving a small scratch. He started unleashing a barrage of attacks, but nothing could damage him. He charged up the Chaos Blast and unleashed it, but Dark Oak still remained unfazed. Dark Oak then grabbed Metalix by his throat, flew down toward the water to claim a quick and easy victory, but thankfully, Metalix threw a Chaos Spear in his face to temporarily stun him long enough to wriggle out of his grasp and get some distance. Black Narcissus further commented that Metalix should just throw in the towel if he knows what's good for him. Eggman commented that the Metalix underestimates his machine. So far, Metalix has only lost one fight, and that was against an opponent that could regenerate from almost anything. Unless Dark Oak has that level of regeneration, then he has a limit to how much punishment he can take. Metalix has gone up against some seriously dangerous and powerful opponents, and has come out on top. He even showed them all that during their first encounter, Metalix could hold Dark Oak at bay, and then some. Eggman looked out to Metalix and told him that he is 2/3 his creation, meaning that he will not tolerate failure on his part. Metalix glanced back at Ivo and nodded. Dark Oak went in to jab him in the face, but his fist was grabbed. He was shocked and went to come down on Metalix with his sword, but Metalix caught it with 2 fingers. He started to glow with a little energy as his aura started to shift colors. He told Dark Oak that when he was 3 separate Metal Sonics before becoming one, Neo Metal Sonic and Metal Sonic acquired data on every fighter that was present and their power, while Shard was updated on Chaos Energy research because of the idea to create Project Silver. He hadn't had a way to access that data for the longest time because when the 3 became one, their data and memory got muddled and corrupted, but thanks to him getting beaten by Nazo and repaired, he could access that data, and now he was going to put it to good use. He let out a burst of energy as his aura matched that of the Chaos form that Shadow shows off. He got in a fighting stance that matched Goku's and told Dark Oak that he's ready. Dark Oak rushed at Metalix, who easily blocked his punch and followed up with a punch of his own. Metalix flew back, then switched fighting stances to match Sonic's, then spun into a ball, revving up and charging his energy. Dark Oak readied his sword to use it like a bat once the bot shut off. Metalix launched at the Metalix, but right as he closed the distance halfway, he uncurled from a ball and shot forward, vanished from in front of him, before coming in from behind with a rapid flurry of kicks, actually managing to dent him. Dark Oak yelled and launched his sword at Metalix, who narrowly dodged and grabbed the sword, holding it in his grasp. The rest of the Metalix watching was shocked, even Dark Oak, but he couldn't let Metalix notice. Metalix, looking at the sword, then changed his stance to match Trunks. He then flew at Dark Oak, who started blocking the sword swing, then delivered a left hook, then an uppercut before grabbing the bot by his leg and flying down toward the water. Metalix had an idea. Right as Dark Oak went to fling him, he wrapped his legs around him and flipped his body, carrying the momentum and translating it back to its center. Dark Oak stopped just shy of the surface, but right as he would look up to check where Metalix was, he was hit in the head with the handle of his thrown weapon, bumping him just enough to touch the water's surface, a visible ripple permeating the water. Right as the match ended, everyone would see a purple cat and a man with white hair walking on the scene. Supreme Kai would be shocked to see Beerus and Whis, but tell Knuckles who he is, to which Knuckles would almost pass out. Whis would tell Shin and Knuckles to not let everybody know who Beerus is yet, as it would seem the Destroyer watched the battle between Metalix and Dark Oak. Vegeta was watching though. He couldn't quite put his finger on it, but the purple cat looked familiar. Next up, Goku and Yellow Zokova got in their places. Beerus watched closely. Perhaps in this tournament, the Super Saiyan God will reveal himself. Once the match started, Goku went into Super Saiyan 2, and Zokova into his Luster form. Both fighters threw punches at each other, except Goku managed to feel the sting and pain from blocking Zokova, whereas Zokova didn't feel pressed in the slightest. In fact, when Goku was ready at Kamehameha, Zokova decked him in the face, then grabbed his head and put a ball of energy to his chest and blasted him away. Goku stabilized himself, then smirked as he yelled out Kaioken ×4. Once his powers surged, he looked over to Amy and thanked her again for teaching him that. Amy said you're welcome, with King Kai appearing in her head, yelling that it was he who taught her the Kaioken, so by proxy, he taught Goku that technique. Goku flew at breakneck speeds to Yellow Zokova and threw punch after punch, kick after kick, visibly damaging the Metalix. Yellow Zokova grunted with every strike he took before he started matching Goku's strikes with his own. Beerus, watching on from the sidelines, was impressed. Whoever this Goku was, he was showing promise. Goku readied a Destructo Disc, then lobbed it at Zokova, who somehow caught it in his hand, then crushed it. Goku's eyes went wide as Zokova began to chuckle. He told Goku that he trained and pushed himself just for this moment. Though he had to admit, he never expected for Goku to have the Kaioken like Amy, but he should have expected it nonetheless. He readied a small energy ball, then tossed it at Goku, telling him to defend against this. Goku watched the energy ball travel slowly toward him and was confused at first, but then the ball got bigger and bigger, forcing him to put his hands up to defend against it, but it started pushing him back. Goku yelled, trying his best, with Sonic and the rest yelling words of encouragement. Raditz looked onward and sighed. He knew that the Kaioken wouldn't last long. It was a lot like Super Saiyan 3 in the sense that it's a stamina killer. Goku managed to push the ball back, but right as he did, the Kaioken ran out and his body started to ache. Yellow Zokova seized the opportunity and peered in front of Goku and punched him across the face, knocking him out and watching the Saiyan drop from the sky. Goku plummeted in the water, and Zokova went in after him and brought him out. Beerus' expression now changed to one of disappointment. Clearly, Goku wasn't the Super Saiyan God. Still though, what was that form if not Super Saiyan God? Bulma announced that before they go into round 2, the tournament will be put on hold for a brief intermission. Everyone took this time to prepare and talk, with Beerus and Whis trying some of the food and other festivities. Sonic challenges Beerus to a dance contest, which Beerus absolutely destroys him in. Vegeta finally puts it together, and he looks like he could drop dead any second now. Beerus eyed Vegeta and laughs, trying to keep up appearances. Right at that moment, Bulma starts up the tournament again, but Beerus cuts in, saying that between Raditz and Vegeta, whoever gets further, he wants to fight them in a one-on-one. While the match between Vegeta and Knuckles starts, Beerus would get a pudding cup, only to then be angered by Boo. Beerus would angrily flick Boo away, causing everyone else to jump in, except Knuckles. Shin would try to warn everyone, but it would be too late. Krillin, Tien, and Ancient Shadow would get everyone to safety. Beerus would effortlessly dispatch everyone present. Sonic couldn't believe there was someone who would outclass his speed. He transformed into his Dark Spine form and used Time Break, but Beerus broke through it and chopped him in the neck, knocking him out. 17 and 18 launched a joint attack, attempting to get close to deal some damage, but neither seemed to deal anything decisive. Shadow went into his Hyper form and threw Chaos Spears and followed with some physical attacks, but somehow Beerus dodged his attacks and flipped the spears away with only a finger. Much like Sonic, Beerus would chop Shadow in the neck, then kicked him away. Red Pine and Black Narcissus, both in their luster forms, tried to tag team the Destroyer, but he grabbed both of their fists, then yanked them in, causing them to headbutt each other. Then he flung Narcissus into the distance and punched Red Pine across the face, then flip-kicked him down to the boat, Dark Oak catching him. Raditz and Gohan went into their super forms and launched a coordinated strike with no avail. Gohan was tapped on his head by Beerus and fell out of the sky, while Raditz, who tried to attack Beerus from behind, was backhanded then kicked away. Dark Oak and Metalix flew toward the Purple Cat and managed to both get a hit in, but both attacks did nothing. Beerus grabbed Metalix, then swung him into Dark Oak, then slammed him into the floor. The now recovered Goku and Zokova started taking shots at Beerus. Goku backed off for a moment, then readied a Kamehameha while Zokova kept Beerus busy. Beerus noticed and uppercut Zokova and flicked him away with his tail, and stood there, letting Goku launch his beam at him. Once it touched Beerus, it disappeared, leaving Goku stunned and open for Lord Beerus' attack. Goku is sent flying into the water where Knuckles goes to retrieve him. Amy went into her Super 2 form and is joined by Vegeta. Beerus turns to look at them and smirked as he started to dodge both of them, both his arms behind his back. Then, using his tail, Beerus redirected Amy to hit Vegeta, then spun around to kick her away. Pale Bailey duplicated himself, and each of the clones fought Beerus. Each would easily be taken out, one after the other. Beerus looked thoroughly pissed and disappointed before getting a table flung at him. He turned to see from where, and saw Silver, Trunks, Goten, Manic, and Ranch, each of them in their own super forms. Beerus would comment that it would seem the children need to be taught a lesson. They each went at him as a joined unit, Silver using his psychokinesis and trying to hold Beerus in place, giving everyone else the chance to attempt to wail on him. Much to Silver's shock, Beerus broke free from his control and began to put each of them down, one by one. He grabbed Manic, then used him as a meat shield for Trunks to hit before tossing him away. Trunks then went in for a swing, only for Beerus to grab both him and the incoming Goten, delivering a spank to each of them, then making them headbutt each other and tossing them away. Lastly, he started dodging Ranch and swept her leg, then kicked her over to Silver, who caught her, then set her down gently. Silver checked on her, and Beerus appeared in front of him, ready to put him down. But Cream ran in front of Beerus, getting between him and Silver, her arms spread, not wanting him to hurt her friends. Beerus raised an eyebrow at her, then looked over to Vanilla, a jolt going across his body as he then sensed an energy rising. He glanced over and saw Raditz slowly making his way to his feet, recharging his energy, his hair growing longer as he went into Super Saiyan 3. He let out a yell, screaming that Beerus hurt his daughter, and that he's gonna pay. Beerus yawned, and Raditz appeared behind him, shocking the god of destruction as he was knocked away. Raditz followed up with a punch to Beerus' body, then a punch to send him flying. He then appeared where he launched Beerus and kicked him away, appearing where Beerus got sent and slammed him into the ground. He started punching Beerus repeatedly, pushing him deeper into the earth before getting kicked away. Beerus had had enough. His aura started to show. He states that he came here looking for the Super Saiyan God, and this is what he finds? A bunch of irritating weaklings who only piss him off. Raditz questions what the hell Beerus is talking about, but is knocked to the ground. Beerus lowers to the ground and tells everyone to give him one reason why he shouldn't just destroy them all right now. Knuckles pipes up and says that if he's looking for something, they could just use the Dragon Balls to wish for it to be here. Beerus looks at him and tells him to explain. Knuckles tells him about the Dragon Balls and that they can grant any wish, so if he wants whatever a Super Saiyan God is, he could just wish for it to be brought here. Beerus thinks it over and tells Knuckles that if the Dragon Balls can do that, then he'll consider sparing them all. Knuckles goes to Bulma and asks her to bring the Dragon Balls out here, and she does. They summon Shenron, and like in canon, he tells them how to create a Super Saiyan God since none currently exist. With everyone now recovered, the present Saiyans look between each other and question who should undergo the ritual. Goku opts out since he doesn't want to do just given power, and also that he's pretty banged up from getting thrown around by Lord Beerus. Vegeta and Raditz looked at each other and then nod. Raditz steps forward as Goku, Vegeta, Trunks, Gohan, and Ranch all joined hands around him. Within seconds, Raditz's hair started to turn red as he ascended to that of a Super Saiyan God. Beerus looked impressed as he and Raditz began to fight. They started flying around the sky, and everyone watching in awe. Raditz yelling about that with this power he's going to make Lord Beerus pay for hurting his daughter. Beerus delivers a swing to his jaw, but Raditz catches his fist and pulls him in to elbow Beerus in the face with the Destroyer God catching it and smirking. They soon take their fighting into this upper atmosphere, and Raditz readies a double Sunday and launches it at Beerus, who actually has to block it so he doesn't feel the brunt of the attack. Raditz, now realizing that his Ki Blast won't do much against Beerus, goes back to only unleashing melee attacks with Beerus clashing them. The energy is felt everywhere that it even starts to worry Shin that this battle could result in the universe being destroyed. During the fight, Raditz starts to become overexerted and drops from Super Saiyan God back to a regular Super Saiyan. Beerus notices and tells Raditz to give up since he won't be able to keep up at this rate, to which Raditz shouts that he can keep going. Beerus lands a strong gut punch to the depowered Saiyan, dropping him out of his super form and letting him drift back to Earth. Raditz held up his hand to try to hold on, but to no avail as he keeps falling toward Earth, with Beerus calling him pitiful. As he heads to Earth, Raditz catches a glimpse of the full moon, and quickly he is reinvigorated as his body starts to shift and transform into a great ape. He looks on at Beerus, his anger flaring up as he opens his mouth to shoot beams of energy. Beerus effortlessly evading the oncoming attacks. If this was Raditz's last hurrah, then this was truly a pathetic sight. While raging, Raditz starts to think of everyone back on Earth, his brother, his wife, the prince, and the ranch. Beerus readies a sphere of destruction and gets ready to chuck it, but something happens. While Raditz is in his Great Ape form, he starts to turn into a golden Great Ape. His power then shifts as he then turns Super Saiyan God. Beerus seemed intrigued as it seems somehow Raditz accessed Super Saiyan God while as a Great Ape. Then Raditz starts to shrink, and a large cloud of smoke covers him. Then, once it clears, Raditz is floating there, arms crossed, staring up at Beerus, not even smirking. Down on Earth, everyone is watching through Whis' staff what's going on. Vegeta and Goku were shocked. What was this form? It's clear that it's not Super Saiyan God. They saw what that looked like before Raditz started fighting. Back up in space, Raditz got ready for a second win to show what it really got. He flew back in at Beerus, who actually had to put in a little bit of effort to keep up with the Mad Saiyan. While fighting, Beerus noticed that Raditz was shifting between this new form and Super Saiyan God until he seemed to be both at the same time. Everyone was rooting for Raditz to pull off the victory. Raditz, with everyone's hope on his back, gave it everything he had. Every strike he landed on Beerus was calculated. Every block had to give him an opening. Every Ki Blast had to be strategically used. Beerus was more than impressed, but he could tell that Raditz was starting to succumb to the strain. Before long, Raditz reverted to his base form again and expected Beerus to finish him right there, but he didn't. Beerus gave props to Raditz for hanging on as long as he did, but told him that at this rate, Raditz will either die from the strain, or he'll just die by him. Raditz, begrudgingly, conceded and sighed as he felt the full strain of exhaustion from both forms and couldn't hold himself up. As he fell to Earth, Raditz was caught by Beerus and helped down to Earth. Once they touched down, Branch ran and hugged Raditz tightly, who was too tired to hug her back. Everyone looked at Beerus and Raditz, who was hugging Branch. Beerus looked at everyone and commented that after giving it some thought, he is going to destroy Earth after all, starting with the boat. He then aims his hand and readies a ball of energy, then shoots a condensed beam, only taking a chip off the railing. He then comments that Raditz must have made him use up too much of his energy, so he'll have to come back later and finish the job. He glanced at Raditz and told him to be ready for the next time he comes back. He'll be expecting big things. With that, Whis and Beerus then took off, leaving the Z Fighters and the Metalix there to enjoy what they could with the rest of the party. And this is where I'm going to be ending things off here. I know this wasn't as long as I honestly thought it would have been, considering the fact that this part of the What If, or this What If episode was basically mostly, if not all, just fighting, which, I'm going to be honest, I really did have a ball writing a lot of these. Now, I know there's some things that do really need to be addressed, God, if I can stop stumbling over my words. English, motherfucker, do you speak it? Maybe, I don't know. One of the key things being, well, for starters, Goku, just having the Kaioken, because I don't think I kind of set it up in the previous part that Goku kind of wanted to acquire more strength, but otherwise I didn't really set it up like that in the previous parts. But considering of who Goku is as an individual, it does make sense for him to at the very least go to Amy for the Kaioken, if not King Kai. But considering the fact that Goku hasn't died yet, and I don't remember him dying. Yeah, no, Goku. Oh my God, Goku hasn't died yet. So he never met King Kai. So the only person he really could learn the Kaioken from was Amy. Next, and I think the biggest elephant in the room, was out of all three, Saiyans becoming Super Saiyan God, the fact that it was Raditz and not Goku, it was really just down to either Raditz or Vegeta, since both of them have Super Saiyan 3 at this current moment, so they're sort of tied as far as strength goes, but considering the fact that Raditz has had more training with Super Saiyan 3 and is more adept with the strain that comes from that transformation, it would have made more sense for him to be a god, become Super Saiyan God instead of Vegeta, though it was, trust me when I say that it was a difficult decision to make, especially because last episode I literally just gave Raditz Super Saiyan 3, and one thing I really don't like doing, at least not without the proper setup, is giving away a new transformation. Like, look how long it took for me to give everybody, or at least the Mobians of the Z Fighters, technically what is the equivalent to Super Sonic 2 from Frontiers, especially after Sonic had unlocked the Super Form. So, without proper setup, I really don't like just handing out forms, at least if it can't be reasonably explained. Like, the Dark Spine form just kind of coming out of nowhere kind of makes sense because of what the Dark Spine form is and how I wrote it coming into existence. It's literally magic and rage from the Dark form, which would make sense. And as for Amy acquiring the Super 2 form and how that was set up, I kind of started on this path way back during the Dragon Ball saga with, Sonic telling her, hey, keep up your training, during the martial arts tournament where Goku and Chi-Chi basically get married, and Sonic told her, hey, keep up your training, and maybe we'll see where it goes. And she did. She kept up with that training and followed up, and Sonic, very true to his word, we see the results of that. And especially with Metalix too, because, Metalix having access to everyone's data, and the reason why he didn't have it before was because, when the three different Metal Sonics became one, all that data kind of got corrupted, but of course, when he got repaired by everyone in Capsule Corp, obviously they saw all of that corrupted data and uncorrupted it, which means he has access to it. So, needless to say, this, with everything that happened in this part, this was a lot of thought that went into it, and even going into the next arc, which, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe after Battle of Gods we go into Resurrection F, which technically doesn't happen now that I think about it, because I wrote that the Metalix went, after the Metalix saga went off and started deconquering planets that were under Frieza Force control, so they basically wiped out what was left of the Frieza Force, and since nobody is alive to, well, come to Earth and use the Dragon Balls, there is no reviving Frieza, and him getting pissed and wanting to launch a full-scale revenge invasion. So, with that being said, what saga should be next? That's a surprise, because I've got a thing that is in, I've got an idea that's in the works. Not gonna say what it is. Actually, you know what? Nah, I'll give you guys a hint. I'll give you guys a hint. Why not? It has something to do with a very important Sonic character who I've neglected to mention ever since the beginning of this entire What If. And I'll leave you guys with that. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm Martin for Shadow 46. Please keep a look out for the 7 Chaos Symbols. As always, I'll see you guys when I see you guys. Stay beautiful, stay frosty. I love you all, and have a fantastic, wonderful morning, day, afternoon, night, whatever your time of the day is when you're watching this. Alright, take care, everybody.